This is about showing that the KKK has always hated America. They've always hated the Republicans. They were created after the Republicans beat the Democrats, the Confederates, in the Civil War. So these were Confederate soldiers who started the KKK right after the same year the Civil War ended, right? And so what the KKK did later on was they demonized, they promoted prohibition and demonized addicts and promoted violence on addicts and stuff. Then created to me, that created the drug cartels. So they created prohibition of alcohol, then drugs, and demonized addicts and created a new slave system. So you got to understand the KKK is not, we've missed a big point here. They're not just about racism. They're angry they lost money. They're angry they lost the money they were making from having slaves, uh, farm for them and different things like that. So they lost the whole industry. It was outlawed by the Republicans. The Democrats are still the same haters of Republicans, and so would the KKK be, except for one thing. Their trick worked, demonizing addicts. They were able to create a new slave system through and created drug cartel. A drug cartel developed about that, and that's my looking at the overall picture. They're the main influence on how the drug cartels became big and created, right? And so why would that come from Mexico and different places? Because they had slavery too. They had more slaves than America did. Brazil, coming through Brazil and on into Mexico and everywhere else. And so I don't really know the history of how slavery was outlawed there, if it was. But if you think about it, the Democrats created their methods of demonizing addicts and acting like that's the only worst thing in the world. The only sin. When I say demonize, they were talking. The KKK was talking about hanging them by their tongues from an airplane, stuff like that, and dragging them across with their tongues hanging from an airplane. So that created an environment where if we make drugs illegal and put the strongest forms in the streets, we make not the drugs. I'm sorry, make the natural plants God created illegal. Some of them are safe to drink in a tea form. All right, they're medicinal. You don't treat it like food. Medicine's a last resort for anything. Abstinence is the thing to teach. But everybody's stupid. I forgot to say this. I said that too quick because the Democrats won't let me say that. But there is stupidity in the world. There's such thing. There is such a thing. And to me, my feeling, this is my feelings, and that I never express. I feel that all Americans are so stupid. That's my real feeling because of this one issue. They think the only sin in the world is drugs. They think they qualify having drug addicts murdered. They supposed drug addicts, which I'm telling you, a lot of these people aren't drug addicts. They just get robbed by the drug cartels that the Democrats created and promoted. The gangs, they get robbed by the gangs. They get medicines that do make them look crazy. They're too strong, mixed. They're not allowed to get it at the store. They're put out of house and home. Let me give you an equivalent of this because they're all following what the KKK said. Even the black gangs and everything, they're doing what the KKK created. They're supporting that. They support the KKK. But a lot of them are black racists. So they're in partnerships. Black racists are in partnerships with white racists on the Democrat Party side. The Republicans have stupidly bought into, a lot of the Republicans have stupidly bought into that drugs are the cause of everything. Drug addicts are the cause of every problem. Drug addicts throw away money and spend all their money on drugs. If they did, they'd all be dead. Right? They don't. They get robbed. It's just a swindling system, and the dealers. So they promote keeping it illegal so they can keep abusing anybody they can lure in to the addiction place. Not just that. Anybody they lure people in sometimes because they always call it racist not to hang out with black folks. But they have a slave network of black folks in the ghettos who runs drugs. That's part of the cartel. But who are those slave masters? Who are the black on black slave masters? Who are the black slave masters running gangs that purposely are just there to steal from people and harm people? They're a hand. They're of the white cartels who deal meth and stuff, and who also talk about killing addicts and stuff. They purposely get people high sometimes to see if they'll say something out of line, just so they have an excuse to kill them. Because the KKK gives them that excuse, the KKK philosophy. And so people in church, in our religions today, they're like, well, if they went out and did drugs, they got what they deserved. If they got robbed, if they got killed, if they got raped, if they whatever, that's what they do. That's what you get for using drugs. And that's not true. It's not what you get for you. It doesn't happen when you drink caffeine. But if you made caffeine illegal, it would happen just the same way. It would all happen, and we could say that's what they get for using coffee. I'm almost daring to say, make coffee illegal today. So that's why I think people are stupid. I mean, I feel that Americans are the stupidest people in the world because they've bought this lie of KKK that using medicine is the only sin in the world, especially if they made it, man-made laws made it illegal. Then I have a comment on that. I may make a post on it if I remember to do it, a written post. That I just forgot it, but it's here it comes. That I forgot. I did forget. So anyway, I just drew it one. It's super blank mind. And yesterday I did caffeine the last 2 days, and I had been off of caffeine. I didn't mean to do it. I was trying to buy coconut water, a healthy drink. I've heard some new things about coconut water, and I couldn't find a good one for a good price. And I'm in a store where they didn't have options. Anyway, it had coffee bean extract and the ingredients and stuff. And so, but yesterday, that was 2 days ago. Yesterday, I just did a little splurge and bought coffee ice cream, and because they didn't have my other kind of water. And so I thought, well, I may as well splurge, coming off the caffeine I didn't mean to do yesterday. And I like the taste. I mixed some coffee and a little chocolate in my coffee ice cream and added milk. But that was my one little splurge vacation. I've been doing good away from that, and I'm good enough to where I'm snapping right out of it. But I have no question. There's no question that my memory fails me after coming off of caffeine products, and it does when I'm coming off them, especially. Well, even when I'm on them, I don't have good. So I'm against caffeine. I mean, I'm against saying it's healthy and it's a food. I treat it just like it's a drug, like any other drug, and it is. That's where I think I feel people are stupid for not recognizing that and being hypocrite about it. And then, so let's take caffeine people. Maybe my other point will come back to me, but let's take caffeine using people and put them out of house and home. Let's drug test people for caffeine and put them out of a job so they don't have any money, and then make sure they can't give any help with charity food sources either because they drug tested positive for caffeine. So I'm displaying that because there's a lot of ignorant people. I'll say definitely ignorant without a question. I'm allowed to say that, who are with this food stamp issue saying drug tested people. Da, da, da. Well, and a lot of people do cocaine, for instance, instead of marijuana because you can't pass a drug test if you do marijuana. But so they do the drug that's around the more dangerous crowd because it's a hustle drug. It's not that it's, in some ways, to be honest, that they're more dangerous than marijuana, except for different forms. You can have heart attacks. You can take you out of your head to where you're more impulsive and different things if it's too strong. But it's also when people come off of that, their minds work well, better than caffeine. Like you don't have memory lapses like you do on caffeine, and you don't have you're not slow in the head like you are with marijuana. Say that. So it's not true that one drug's the bad drug and one drug is the good drug. They do different stuff, and any drug has bad side effects. Has some bad side effects, and also some are made strong. But the nature of the cocaine is it puts you around. The way they make certain formulas out there, they pick people up and drop them. So the worst thing about them is they make somebody dizzy for a few minutes and they drop right back down to normal. But during that time, they get robbed and stuff. All right. So by the dealers. So, but if you had a coca leaf tea, it's probably not any worse than coffee, right? maybe it's healthier. Maybe it's a better medicine than coffee for certain things. Maybe. I can't say that for sure. And that's not a promotion of use, but it would be way better for people who are pre-exposed to relapse on something like that, and then not be held hostage to extortion and enslaved to debt because they were lied to about the price and everything else and made into a slave, right? So anyway, but people, you can pass a drug test. That's why people do those, choose some of the harder stuff, which they act like is. So when people start demonizing it and all that, that's cake. That idea of demonizing and say, no, how dare you, all that, how dare you claim that's not a bad. And they silence the truth on this stuff by saying this. The reality, it's a reality. It should be talked about. People should be educated. It's not a promotion to use. If you've never eaten spinach, you'll never miss spinach. All right. So it's the same thing with that. And then, relapse is not addiction. If you decide to eat spinach again, it doesn't mean you're addicted to it. If you ate it once, twice a month, you might have wanted it because it has high protein. It may have chlorophyll in it or something that's good for your memory and all that. Anyway, so, but they'll call somebody an addict and try to say if somebody uses something once a month or something. But that's not addiction exactly. It is a crutch. It is something they've learned to use a crutch on at a certain time when it comes to those things. But they relieve pain, but they also create pain in the withdrawals. So that's the reality. But the biggest reality that they never talk about is that people kill people because they want the people that deal it are predators and they want to steal. But if they had made it legal in a T form, you wouldn't have those kind of people. So anyway, but they love demonizing it because it helps isolate addicts. So let's say you take a drug test, you fail it, and they kick you off of, you can't get hired at a job because you can't pass a drug test, all right, for caffeine. So, all right, and then you kind of, food stamps would help you in that case, right? Or because you don't have a property to grow a garden, you don't have a cow to milk, all right, so but the same people are saying kick them off food stamps. So what's their only option almost is really, everybody says that's no excuse. I've heard that. That's no excuse for them to go deal drugs because we won't let them have food. So here's the point, and this is the point I forgot, is that we live in a day and age where the lawmakers are going to hell, not the people using the drugs or dealing with drugs a lot of times, frankly. But the people who are but today, when people deal drugs a lot of times, they're accepting of stealing and hurting people. And it's not all of them, but the ones that run it are doing that, and it leads to that. And there's a certain point where if somebody can't stand harming their neighbors, they have to get out of it. And then there's the regulation issues. We just don't even talk about all that common natural stuff. There's the regulation issues to where they're not regulated. So you might not be trying to hurt somebody if you're caught up in that. Some people might not be. But then they receive a product that they didn't know was mixed with something. They don't know it was mixed higher up. And even the people higher up sometimes don't know it came mixed from their people. Somebody had it mixed or something. They don't know for sure. And it's a gamble, all right? So, but usually there are people out there who do try to make sure they stick with the same folks and don't have it screwed up, mixed stuff like that, right? But since we've had Obama, they increased the poison that they put in drugs, the fentanyl poisoning. That was an experiment on people because now they're using it as medicine, softer forms of it, but it's still dangerous. Even in a soft form of it, you take 5 pills of a soft form, you're still going to die. So, or 2 pills, 3 pills, even soft form. So the truth is, even with fentanyl and anything, you can create a 1% potency or 100% potency. But with fentanyl, I guess I don't understand it all the way. It's a synthetic form of heroin. And is my best understanding. But at first it's easy to make it 100 times stronger than heroin though, or something. And so it kills people, right? People who come off, I do know that people who get addicted to heroin, if they're trying to come off it, they can't ever fully come off it, or they can't, I won't say not ever, but if they've done it a lot, if they come off it cold turkey, they have heart failure. All right. So they're dependent on it. Their bodies become dependent on it. And so they have methadone. So why do they need to create fentanyl when they have already had something called methadone, which is I don't know if it's a synthetic form of heroin or a pill form, but, so I'm not sure exactly. That's one I haven't studied specifically what methadone is. And nowadays, if you try to study it and Google it and all that, you don't know if you're getting the truth sometimes or the accuracy. But I do find a lot of good information on Google. But every now and then, with certain subjects, they change statistics on how many black folks were killed by police in 2000. They've hidden the statistics. I used to have some statistics of that it was like closer to 400 per year of white people who were killed in encounters with police, which we assume most of those white people attacked the police. And I guarantee you that's the case. They were they were violent white people who didn't respect, probably cartel linked, and they didn't respect, just like the Antifa, those types. They tried to fight the police, got killed. We assume that now, but the media wants to lie and act like we've seen it on camera. We see it on camera where they claim this black guy got killed by the police or whatever, and we saw the black guy started to fight with the police just like these white guys did, and so that got hurt, right? And so you're going to get hurt if you start fighting with the police. And first of all, we should be teaching them not to do that. We should not ignore that, and we should teach the young people, don't start a fight with the police, because even if you come out unhurt, that's an extra charge. They might have just been giving you a small $50 ticket, and now you're in jail for 5 years, 2 years, or whatever it is, for assaulting a police officer. All right? You don't have to have that charge. Just, if you're caught, even if they're wrong, you act calmly and rationally and deal with it and voice your opinion. The words matter. Voice that you don't think it's fair and all that kind of stuff. And they'll hear that and they'll be able to evaluate it and be more discerning in the future. And if not all cops, some cops will get that message, and there will be some cops who are a little more discerning or a little more not lenient, but merciful. But they have to decide if you're a repeat offender. They can see that on the record sometimes, and they can't keep being lenient or merciful or give you. But they do if you have a good record. Police a lot of times don't want to mess that up and put you in the system because there's problems in the system because you're around people who are true regular offenders. You'd be surprised how hateful and mean some people are, and they are in those prison systems. And there's a lot of them. I mean, it's not all of them, but so that's the thing. And so they're worse than the police. By the way, a lot of these people they lock up, they're worse than the police. The Democrats who are trying to chase out good police who are arresting thieves. If you're a thief, it's best for you to be for them to put a stop to that, right? Because if you're a thief, you're hurting other people, right? That's the problem, all right? And that is a real crime. So people don't know that today because the KKK started this demonizing of drug addicts and all that. And it's easy to fall for that. I'm not going to say it's not easy to fall for it, because you could take any story and say, look, this guy got drunk and killed people. Shut up, how dare you say we shouldn't demonize addicts? And they start yelling that, and that's a trick. Some people are demon possessed, I think, and just can't see that that's not the only thing that happens, and they can't see the medicinal value. They can't see that anybody who's ever drunk before, they're calling them worthless and hopeless, and it may be at a stage in their life where they don't recover from being stereotyped and isolated that way, and the only thing they can depend on is not people, because that's what they hear from people, that they're no good, they're worthless, hanging from an airplane by the tongue, all this kind of stuff. So they stay away from them, and they need an escape from loneliness sometimes. Not that everybody needs that. I'm not saying that anybody needs it all the way, but they feel they need some escape because they've done it before, and they drink again by themselves. And they stay to themselves, don't hurt anybody, never get caught. They drink by themselves. And some of them, if they're smart, they do it right before they go to sleep. Helps. There's a lot of people that do that and do drink right before they go to sleep, a glass of wine. And it's like a mild sleeping pill if you don't do too much, right? You don't want to do much because it's bad for your liver, bad for your metabolism. It's bad for your sugar level, diabetes. You create diabetes. If you have it, it's bad for diabetes. But if you do a little bit, the truth is it's like a mild medicine. It will help you sleep. Not every time, but it can help you sleep. So, I mean, that's the reality. It's not true how they interpret the Bible that calls it a sin. It says, be not drunk with wine. It says not to lust after the strong drink. It says to walk in the Spirit instead of uh, and and be sober, be vigilant. And when it's talking about being sober, be vigilant, people try to make that about alcohol, but that's about controlling your temper. Have a sober temperament. Work on your temperance. And there are actually times you can use a medicine that helps you be temperate, helps you stay calm. And so, how is that a sin? It's not getting drunk on something, but something that helps you control your temper. If there's been a time in your life, I think most people have had some point in time in their life where they felt like they're worried about their temper because they were really angry about something. All right. You might look at some people and think, I bet they've never lost their temper. I've seen people like that. And the people have thought that about me. I'm the type that there's been lots of times in my life for long periods of time where people would think he's the calmest person in the world. And I have, and mostly I think I have been more than most people, right? But I had an experience when I was in 5th grade, a spiritual experience, maybe 6th grade, where I was playing chase with other kids, and I was real angry when they caught me. And I forget why, but I mean, it was frustrating somehow. And I kicked the hole, and I was laying on the ground. I had fallen on the ground close to a wall. And I kicked the wall, kicked the hole in the wall. And I was like shocked about it. And then after that, I was scared of my temper, and I prayed about it. And I was scared to death of my temper. And ever since then, I never lost my temper about anything for years. And I was known so I had believed in God already and felt really guilty about it, about the fact that of my temper from that one thing. And so you could call that almost a miracle, or at least a spiritual thing, because I really just never had a problem with my temper after that. I won't say never. I did one time in a soccer game. I guess in a basketball game. But that was more like 8 years later, maybe. So anyway, but I didn't lose it too bad, by the way. But so I never fought. There's times I wanted to fight in a basketball game. I never fought. I pushed a person one time, pushed him all the way back against the wall. They had kept jabbing me in the stomach because I was winning. Hey, so anyway, but and I got in a lot of trouble for that. But nobody ever got in trouble for jabbing me in the stomach. I didn't even think of it because I felt so embarrassed that I did what I did. But anyway, did I forget my point? Did I ever finish my main point? What was it? About the same one I had forgotten earlier. But sometimes medicines, I've had things later in life where I've been robbed, and I've been in situations where somebody's going to kill me, and I needed help with money, so somebody wouldn't kill me, and nobody would help me to keep from getting murdered. And I was angry about that for a year, maybe. Stayed angry. When I think about it, I was real angry. I'm like, nobody's going to help me just so I can get away from having to worry about these people, And so I think that's stupid. To say I'm stupid for getting in that situation. I think it's stupid that nobody helps people in those kind of situations. I do. I've helped a lot of people to make sure they're safe in that way. I've given people money to make sure they're safe. Don't come ask me for money to make sure you're safe, not in a tricking way or whatever. But I've had people. I've walked people home who were scared to walk home, and once this happened, and I didn't have money, and I think they assumed I had money. They walked me past the person who was going to attack them, and I had no money. I couldn't help them at the moment, at that time. But I did kind of rescue them still from the situation, sort of. But at most times when I think somebody's going to be in trouble with somebody else, I'll give them money to make sure they're not going to be harmed. So I've done that. I've rescued a guy that was getting beat in the face once. I lured the attacker in with money so he quit attacking that person. All right. So, and I lost my money. I ended up losing my money. But, and I lost more than that after that. But, so I lost, I won't go into that. So I got in trouble for it. But anyways, I was punished for it, yeah. But the guys walked away alive. The other guy did. And he might not have. So I think I did the right thing in this situation. I mean, some people think, oh, you just call the police, or you do whatever. I should have fought him. I should have beat him up. Well, I don't know who was going to have his back if I did that. I'd rather make peace, lose a little money if I can when I'm by myself. I didn't have any backup. Obviously, I'd rather keep my money. And but when it comes down to a situation in that setting, it's better to stay alive if you have a lot you want to share with people, which I do, obviously, right? So I don't find time to. I'm a busy guy for various reasons, and I don't get to share as organized as I wanted to, and I don't get to think over my topics a lot of times before I do them because I'd like to share on a variety of topics that I've analyzed, and I've done that. I'd say a world class analyzer of things, endurance wise, and I get into stuff, but I do it I inspire myself to get into the analysis. I have done that, and a lot of stuff I do get into, but I don't have a good memory. I just don't have a good recall memory. And the funny thing is, I would say I have more knowledge packed in my mind than most anybody. I mean, maybe it's not everybody, but I don't see how anybody could have done more studying than me and looking at the facts in a proper light and a fair light and stuff like that, and trying to reanalyzing and making sure I didn't get it wrong. I want to get it right, and don't listen to my bias. I don't get stuck on. I'll reanalyze it again after I think I got it perfect. I'll listen to somebody's view on it, and then there's certain things some people will never agree with. They want to claim that we're not one human race. A lot of folks, they just won't get it. And they want to ignore all the evidence of the fact that we're all born from a mother and father, a sperm and an egg, right? They want to ignore that. And so I'll go ahead and listen to them. Usually I'm tired. I've done it for 20 years, so I'm not hearing anything new anymore. So at this point though, I just can't, none of their views have disproven any evidence. There's no evidence to support their views, but they'll still yell over you and say, you don't have any evidence, prove it. And they won't let you show any evidence. You can't even think of it that fast. Then they'll cut you off and walk off. And they'll never hear the truth. They'll never let the truth sink in. A lot of them do that, right? But that's how it is with the drug debate too. And that's like, they'll never legalize the coca leaf. And that's the drug cartel saying that. They say the same thing the religious folks do, and that's all. But I'm telling you, who started all that? The KKK. The KKK hates America because they ended slavery. They hate the Republicans for doing that. So that's the Democrat Party. They came from the Democrat Party. They're still with the Democrat Party, bringing fentanyl here. So they want to hang an addict by the airplane, by the tongue, stuff like that. Set him on fire, different stuff. They'd say all kinds of stuff, right? So that's where you qualify stealing from an addict. It used to be against the law to get somebody drunk and make them sign their house over or something. Purposely get them drunk, even spike their drink to do that. That's against the law. It's still in the books somewhere, but nobody knows it's against the law. They think because they've listened to what the KKK said, and the black gangs love it. They love that. But the ones that are that's what they do nowadays. They're into stealing and thieving. Now a lot of them, they have some conscience about that. But they know they price gouge. So it's not fair. They're basically stealing from people. And then they have people in their group who will literally right out steal. And some of them, there are people out there in the cartels that like having drugs to deal so they can treat people fairly. They can swindle them instead of steal from them. So they rationalize all that because there's no other markets for them, that they've been disqualified from other markets if they are called an addict a lot of times. Anyway, I'm going to run out of time, but I had sure thought of just a new explanation I wanted to give of something, but I hope I can in 1 minute think of it. And gee whiz. But it kind of left me, but it was going to be a pretty long one. I don't think I'm going to figure it out fast enough. Maybe I will. But there's like 2 or 3 things that just came to me. And it's like I'm out of time, so I can't navigate back to it. But yeah, I'm telling you, that's a common denominator. Demonizing addiction and acting like stealing is okay. So thou shalt not steal except from addicts. And so people, all these Republicans and everybody, they don't support thou shalt not steal. So they're falling for the Democrats' okie doke. But the Democrat Party is the hater of God. God showed that we are one human race, and the Democrats promote evolution and then call people who believe in one human race racist. if they claim there's drugs in this area or whatever. But they should legalize though. Bye.